in the beginning of things, in the beginning of a relationship, in the beginning of a new customer, the beginning of a project, we're all leaning into more questions and to more listening. We're allowing ourselves to be more curious. And after a while, we settle to this new reality. We settle to this status quo, and we stop exploring it.
In a world where we're constantly pushed to be faster, more efficient, more certain, curiosity invites us to slow down, to ask better, harder questions, and to stay open to what we don't know yet. But that requires some humility and courage and a whole lot of psychological safety. This is Work Better, the Steelcase podcast where we think about work and ways to make it better. I'm your host, Chris Congdon, and my guest today is Stefaan van Hooydonk. And Stefaan is the founder of the Global Curiosity Institute. He's a leading voice on how curiosity can shape better leaders, better cultures, and ultimately better business results. Stefaan defines curiosity as the mindset or the will to challenge the status quo. And he says that when we get out of our comfort zone and ask difficult questions, it pays off big time for organizations. We talk about why curiosity often gets pushed aside at work, how leaders can create space for it, and how the places we work can open our minds to new questions. Stefaan joins me from his home in Belgium. Thank you for joining me today, Stefaan.
Thanks, Chris. Let's do this. Really looking forward.
Well, good, because I'm curious about curiosity. And I'm really curious about what caused you to start studying this. Like, it feels like sort of an unusual topic to really dig into. And so I want to spend some time there. But before we get started, I first have to just ask a question about you from your youth, because when I was looking at one of your books, you started out by describing yourself as a 12-year-old who wanted to learn Sanskrit. And I'm just really curious about what on earth made you as a 12-year-old think that that was a thing to do.
Yeah, it's actually quite strange. You know, as a 12-year-old, I studied Sanskrit, and as a 15-year-old, I studied modern Greek. And often we self-subscribe. When you think a little bit about this, often we think of ourselves as being really curious, as if the environment has nothing to do with this. Actually, what I found, this is just half the truth. About 50% of our curiosity is driven by our internal drive to challenge the status quo, learn something new, to explore. But it cannot be done by external factors. Like, for instance, my father was reading a lot. He was reading 3-4 books a week. Mm-hmm. And he was this great role model for me of driving new things. Or sometimes my parents would take me out of school and take me to exhibitions and museum. And they would write in a nice note to school saying, but for family reasons, Stefan couldn't be at school today. And, you know, that already gave me the grounding, the permission, the opportunity to learn from really great parents and have role models. And when you think about that, I think the lesson, like curiosity, is only 50%. So I might have been a little curious kid, but I could only do this because I had a great environment that created a time and space for me to be curious. So I wasn't that special, really. I just had special people surrounding me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting. What I'm hearing you say is, you know, some of our curiosity is maybe innate, but without having kind of an enriched environment or the encouragement, you might not develop your innate curiosity as much. So let's talk a little bit more about curiosity as just a general topic. And I'm interested in hearing what you think about what curiosity really is. Like, you know, how do you define it, and what do you think it really means to be truly curious?
Now, let's stay also a little bit with your previous question, because when we're talking about external factor, it means that the role of a leader is so important and the role of a company is so important. And linking that to the definition, for me, curiosity is the mindset or even the will to challenge the status quo. my status quo of knowledge about the world, but also my status quo in my relationships and even my status quo in me and myself. Like that's a function of self-awareness and self-reflection. And so it's the mindset that challenges the status quo. And it's really hard. Like in the beginning of things, in the beginning of a relationship, in the beginning of a new customer, the beginning of a project, we're all leaning into more questions and to more listening. We're allowing ourselves to be more curious. And after a while, we settle to this new reality. We settle to this status quo, and we stop exploring it. And we also do that in our intimate relationships. In the beginning, we're all very curious about the other person, and after a while, we think we know the other person. We stop asking questions. So, or have that humility and that courage to constantly ask yourself, am I still on top of things?
Yeah.
Am I learning faster than the rate of change around me? And that can be done at the level of stuff, material stuff, learning, reading books, learning about new tooling, AI that's around the corner, already kind of in the house, but also my relationship and myself.
Well, I want to ask a little bit about relationships because when you said that, it reminded me of it was another podcast that I had listened to. And in it, the guest was describing a new relationship, or actually a relationship that didn't go anywhere because the other person never asked her any questions about herself. He just, explained things about himself, but didn't really ask anything about this other person. And the way that made her feel was like, well, you're not interested in me. And it's interesting to me, this idea that our curiosity within relationships, like that can begin to kind of taper off. Like we assume that we don't need to know anything new about other people in our lives. Is that kind of a pattern that you think just happens to all of us, or can we change that pattern?
I found that after 3 years, our curiosity tapers off. We settled in this new reality. We ask less questions. We're less listening. We're less open to changes, and we think we know. And now it doesn't mean that curiosity leaves the house or leaves the station. It means that we have to try harder, that we have to come up with new strategies to keep curiosity alive. And that is, first of all, giving yourself permission to say, okay, maybe something I'm missing here. Maybe I have to learn faster, or I have to kind of lean into this curiosity again. And it also links to awareness. What is my curiosity barometer tell me? Am I running on automatic pilot in my relationships, or with my customer, or am I asking still really some of those fundamental questions? And it's still hard. I'm sometimes asking questions when I'm dealing with management teams, and one question is, what can I do to be a better dot 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 for you? And you can kind of fill in the relationship. Maybe what can I do to be a better boss for you, or what can I do to be a better partner for you, or a better spouse, or and I call that the better question. And sometimes it's a frightening question to ask your subordinate.
Yeah.
What can I do to be a better boss?
I'm not sure if I want to know the answer to that question, right? So why ask it?
Yes, you see?
Yeah.
Because it requires humility and it requires courage.
Right.
And it's easy to say that we're curious people, but when confronted with questions like this, suddenly we ask ourselves, well, it's magical curiosity if we ask the questions, but sometimes we create some barriers to asking such questions and to really lean into this curiosity with humility and courage.
And I think the way you're defining it with that ability to, or the willingness to challenge the status quo, I think is a different way than maybe I've thought about curiosity, and maybe some of our listeners have thought about too. And I really found it interesting when you noted that curiosity is something that is an adjective that's showing up in more and more job postings, that when organizations are looking for people to come join, they want people who are curious. And, I started out my career in journalism, which I would think is like, you have to be curious to do that line of work. But maybe not all of us think about curiosity as a trait that we need to bring with us into our job. And so I'm just curious, literally, what is it that organizations are trying to solve for? What do they need when they're putting that in the job descriptions, that I want people who are curious to apply?
Well, it's absolutely right. When you're looking at, for instance, online job posts, there's a 90% growth year on year of the use of the word curiosity. So companies are starting to realize more and more, to the tune of 90% increase every year, that curiosity sells. You want to recruit better and more candidates to the job postings that you're having, use curiosity. And everybody wants to work for an organization that's curious, because curiosity means exploration. Curiosity means that I'm empowered to learn and to grow faster than other companies. And curious organizations create environments where there's psychological safety and where people have a growth mindset and where people can kind of drive things forward, So there's all this goodness. Not that all organizations are beacons of curiosity, because actually what is important to also talk about the opposite of curiosity, which for me is conformity. And conformity is all about keeping, and curiosity is all about seeking, or conformity is all about kind of playing not to lose, and curiosity is about playing to win. So organizations are often more geared towards conformity than towards curiosity.
Well, I wanted to ask more about that because, the old phrase, curiosity killed the cat. Are there times where too much curiosity is not a good thing? Like if you're challenging the status quo in ways that it's going to be hard for people or organizations to accept? Do you think like there's a balancing act there, or should we just say curiosity is always the right path?
Well, I think curiosity killed the cat is language that was very common about 50 years ago. And there's still remnants of this old language in our language. And in all languages, you have this. In Polish, there's a saying, curiosity is the first step to hell. Or in Romanian, there's a saying that curious people die young.
Oh, dear.
And we all have this love-hate relationship with curiosity because it goes against the grain. And at the end of the day, it goes against the grain of normal thinking in the wider society. And so of those two, curiosity and conformity is the stronger one, as we explained. And back to your point earlier about you mentioned about your friend who were the partner was not really asking questions.
Right.
For me, that's the difference between being interesting and being interested. Because when you're being interesting, you're always looking from your own perspective, and you're trying to you don't really care about the other person. You want to impress the other person. You want to kind of to pry in the other person or snoop, and that's always negative for the person that you're dealing with. If, on the other hand, you're more from a perspective of I'm interested, you're always going to be more looking out for the other person, be more empathic, and you're always going to treat the conversation with care and dignity. If you're starting from that attention, then you're always going to be on the right side of things.
I love the way you express the difference between being interesting versus interested. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself, the most interesting people I think I've ever met are the ones who are the most interested in learning and just having that kind of rapport with other people. So maybe that's, if you want to be interesting, maybe you should spend a little more time being focused on being interested in what other people have to say. I want to ask you about something that I think is on everybody's minds these days. Of course, it's AI. And some of the things that I think people worry about as we adapt this new technology and become more accustomed to it is, do we think that the future of AI and embedding that kind of technology in our lives will make us less curious versus more curious?
Well, I think the jury is still out there, but when looking at social media, we all find these extreme points of view. You either have the techno optimists, and will be good for everything, and we have to kind of embed curiosity in schools and everywhere that we can, and in all parts of our life. And then you have on the other side the more kind of people that are against curiosity. What I'm advocating all the time is let's try to be in the middle and let's try to learn from both sides. When you're looking at other technology introductions, say GPS or Google, we find always we win some, but we also lose some. And the challenge now with AI is what will we lose and what will we gain? And clearly AI will be able to help us in a lot of aspects of our life in terms of getting more efficient in our work things, in writing letters and doing other things. The worry I see more in the space of cognition, knowledge, because when you're looking at curiosity over knowledge, then it follows an inverted U shape.
Say more about that.
The more knowledge I have in my head, the better questions I can ask.
I see.
So, for instance, if I've never heard about kind of Greek history, I will never be able to ask any meaningful questions about it. And the more I learn about Greek history, the more questions I can ask. Okay, Athens in the 4th century BC has got a really great philosophers, etc. So we need to build our database in order to ask better and deeper questions. Now, it is our own database. The more we delegate that to third parties, say Google or the AI, the less we're building our own database. And as a result, we're going to ask less deeper questions. I think that maybe we have to be a bit careful that we're not too optimistic from a cognitive perspective, while realizing that AI can help us so much on the efficiency side.
Yeah. What you just said a moment ago really interests me in the sense that even if you think about working with AI in order to be successful, we keep talking about how you have to be able to create great prompts. You have to ask AI a good question in order to get the value from it. And if you don't have enough knowledge about a subject, like you don't even know how to write a good prompt. So it feels like that's an area for us to be making sure that we emphasize that we need to develop our own knowledge, not just rely on AI to do it for us. So if I wanted to have an organization be grounded in curiosity, are there things that I could be looking to measure? I mean, how do I know if I've built more curiosity in my team or in my organization?
Well, probably at the highest level, curiosity and the permission for curiosity is at the level of corporate values. And there's an increasing amount of companies that have curiosity or something similar in their corporate values, which is very open to both internal employees, but also to customers, that this is what we value as an organization.
Right.
So that would be one dimension. Another dimension is a lot of work that I'm doing now with organizations is basically measuring the curiosity levels at the individual level, the team level, and the organizational level. And I measure curiosity through 10 different dimensions. One is, for instance, joyous exploration. One is the calculated risk taking. Are you willing to stick out your neck as an individual or as an organization and explore unknown worlds? Openness to ideas. And I measure a couple of other things. I also often measure the organizational culture. How much is curiosity a thing in our organization? And I try to distill that often into a maturity model, where I'm giving back to management teams, kind of this is against 8 different dimensions, how both leaders, but also people reporting to those leaders perceive the culture in the organization. And that's a great starting point.
I think that's fascinating. Of all the things that we think about measuring, we measure revenue and growth and efficiency things. I don't think we always think about measuring things like curiosity. So I think that's fascinating. I am also wondering what you think about other ways that we could prompt curiosity, like in our collaboration, for example. And, of course, we're always thinking about the physical environment, physical spaces. Are there things that you've seen in your research or you've observed working with clients where you say, this kind of space seems to help foster greater levels of curiosity?
It's a beautiful question. Actually, in the maturity model that I've just spoke about, I have got physical space as one of the dimensions.
Interesting.
Are we perceiving our environment to be conducive to collaboration, empathic curiosity, but also to general curiosity or cognitive or intellectual curiosity? And that dimension receives consistently the lower score of all of the other dimensions. And I've just finished an article about whether modern art is a good thing in the boardroom. And I've written it together with an artist. And actually, we've established that often we don't think enough about what we put on the wall in our really important meeting rooms, i.e. boardrooms, but by extension, any meeting room or any office space. And we've established that if you put realistic pictures or if you put like product pictures or other type of pictures, it doesn't really do anything with the minds of people. If, on the other hand, you put modern art on the wall, it sparks a certain level of surprise, even at the subconscious level. And that leads automatically, and we've proven this now, through better openness to new ideas, better solutioning skills, and therefore just a better way of looking into the future and inviting the future in those boardrooms. And it's actually a quite interesting dimension that just by inviting new type of stuff that we're putting on the wall, it's actually changing the way people think and interact with each other.
It's so interesting. We've also seen in some of our work, a little different, but kind of related in terms of having people physically have more movement, be active when they're actually collaborating. That also seems to have an impact as well in terms of causing people to think more creatively or generate newer, different ideas just by physical movement. So it seems interesting that you could really be thinking about places that embed those kinds of things into a space if you're really interested in helping to generate more of that kind of curious culture. So thinking about a curious culture, I want to help some of our listeners with some really practical advice. Are there some specific things that you would suggest, whether it's rituals or habits or things that can help either help us as individuals or help us as leaders create more curiosity around us?
Well, I would recommend probably use a little model that I've been working with management teams, the permission, awareness, intentionality model. First of all, give yourself permission. Let it be a thing, or in your team. Let's say, guys and girls, we are going for curiosity in the next month, or we have it in our corporate charter, or for myself as an individual level. Next time I'm going into a meeting, I'm going to give myself permission to be curious versus maybe judgmental, because judgmental is a function of conformity. And then awareness. For instance, people take my diagnostics constantly, and becoming aware of maybe I'm good at curiosity about the world, but maybe not so good at curiosity of others or curiosity of self. Can I kind of make that transparent? Or what am I underlying thinking? Or what's the team's underlying thinking? Or why we kind of support curiosity or why not? And then we can take action, and that's a function of intentionality. Another dimension could be what I call change your script. Change the way you look at things, but even say things like, I don't know whether you like coffee, Chris. Are you into coffee or more into tea?
I'm a tea drinker. Yeah.
Okay. You have more coffee bars than tea bars, but let's assume that let's stay with the paradigm of coffee for a second. So next time when you go to a coffee place or a tea place, let's say, and when the person behind the counters, often they say something to you which is more formulaic language rather than meant language. They would say hello or how do you do or something, and you would reply to it with the same formulaic language, i.e., words that don't mean anything.
Right.
So next time you go into such a tea place, and you look at the badge of the person, and you might say, "Okay, hello, Katie. Thank you for asking. Today I'm a 7.2. What about you?" And you're radically changing the script of that conversation.
Yes.
And you're inviting the other person to respond to your strange sentence. And by doing that, you're treating that other person as a human being and not just as a delivery mechanism for your tea. And what research shows is that you're going to make that person happy for a full day by just doing this. And even better, you will be happier for a full day by just doing this and by changing your script. Or on Monday morning, if you're working in the office, don't ask people, how was your weekend? Because again, that was also something formulaic, and people say good and they go on with life, but ask people like, what did you learn this weekend? Or what was the highlight of your weekend? And just by changing that script, you change the conversation, and it's a slight form of courageous humility. You're going to lean into that other person and you become interested in that person with a new twist.
I love that so much. And I think that that's a really good place for us to wrap up today, because it's a good thought to leave us with, that, curiosity is something that we can be intentional about. Stefaan, I'm so grateful that you took the time to join us today and to really help us think in new ways about curiosity in our lives and how it can enrich others and enrich ourselves. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
75% of employees use AI at work. But is your workplace designed to support AI integration? Learn how AI is entering the workplace as an organizer, analyst, director, and coworker in a new Work Better magazine article. Discover more and get your free copy at steelcase.com/WB magazine.
Being curious about myself, my family, my organization is really a lot harder than I originally thought. It requires humility and also boldness to ask hard questions and to hear hard answers. But when we create psychologically safe environments and empower our teammates to ask those questions, it creates relationships and organizations that are consistently getting better. If you want to learn more about psychological safety, I'd suggest you go listen to Season 5, Episode 1, called Making It Safe to Speak Up, with author and researcher Connie Noonan-Hadley. And before you go, if you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute and share it with a friend or a colleague. Be sure to follow us and visit us at steelcase.com/research to sign up for Work Better weekly newsletter and get workplace research and design ideas delivered right to your inbox. Thanks again for being here today, and we hope your day at work tomorrow is just a little bit better. Thank you to everyone who helps us work better, including our producers, Katie Pace, Rebecca Charbowski, Stav Kontas, Chiara Licari, and Brandon Lasik. We are thankful for the creative art direction by Aaron Ellison and Emily Cowdery, and for the editing and sound mixing by Soundpost Studios, and the technical support by Mark Caswell, Sean McManaman, and Jose Jimenez. Our digital publishing is by Areli Ariano and Jordan Marks.